Disclaimer! Before this video begins, I'd like to let you all know the entire story of Curse of Osiris will be spoiled in this video. Aside from that, the opinions expressed in this video are of my own. If you disagree with them, let me know in the comments. I'm always up for a good debate. I'd like to start this off by saying, yes, you've seen the title, and yes, that is how I feel. I don't like this expansion. I don't like it very much at all. Curse of Osiris is the newest expansion to the Destiny 2 experience. I say that with quotation marks because there is very little new to experience. Our story begins as we follow this new character named Osiris and his ghost Sagira, as they are exploring the new area for this expansion, the Infinite Forest on Mercury. As they travel through the battle between some Guardians and Vex, Osiris senses a disturbance in the Force or something like that, and proceeds to freak out. The Vex attack him, and he sends Sagira, throws Sagira through a time portal and out of the maze. You receive a message from Ikora to go see her. She gives you some history on Osiris and how he was her mentor and was exiled long ago because reasons. Ikora tells you that she needs to know what happened to Osiris and if anything can be done about his ghost. You travel to Mercury to see if you can figure it out. You try to enter the Infinite Forest where Osiris is, but can't get inside without his ghost's help. One of Osiris's followers tells you that his ghost can be revived by some other followers in the EDZ. You go to find these people, but they're all dead. Sagira's spirit then fuses with your ghost, so you get to deal with her instead of your regular ghost for the rest of the story. This is a little interesting as you get to listen to a different traveling companion for a while, but it's never really elaborated on in a meaningful way. It's just like 1 minute it's your ghost and 1 minute it's Sagira, which isn't even brought up again until near the end of the campaign. But I digress. Sagira instructs you to return to Mercury to find out what Osiris is up to. Here you learn about our main antagonist, the Vex Mind Panoptes.
You are the key. You can stop this. Every timeline we've tracked leads here. We must destroy Panoptes to prevent this dark future. Panoptes! He's found us!
He wants to make the world ideal for the Vex, where light doesn't exist and the Vex rule all the things. This is pretty much where the plot drops off, because the rest of the story leading up to the fight with Platopsis is one big fetch quest. First, you go get a map so you can find Platopsis, but the map isn't where you thought it was, so you go to another place to find the map. It is there, but this time Sagira isn't powerful enough to read it, so you go to your nearest Best Buy and buy a new CPU, also known as taking the brain of a Vex. But more troubles arise as the CPU you got was corrupted, so it doesn't work so well. After all that work, out of absolutely nowhere, Ikora suggests you go back in time to track Platopsis. This renders all the work you did up to this point completely meaningless, and because of that, the first 3/4 of the expansion seemed like pointless filler. The next mission has you going through the past and fighting an above-average boss so you can finally track down Panoptes. Sagira gets killed by Panoptes, and this was probably supposed to be emotional, but I didn't have enough time to get connected to her as a character, so I really didn't care about her. And to make matters worse, there was no consequence to her death because, spoiler alert, she comes back later anyways. At this point, you go grab Ikora from the tower so she has her chance to have a cool looking scene just like Osiris. She opens the gate to the forest again so you can go fight Panoptes. This fight is pretty cinematic, and I was happy to see Osiris show up for a while to lend a hand at the end. This doesn't mean this fight was perfect. More on that later. After you defeat Panoptes, Osiris and Ikora get their reunion scene, and Osiris gets his ghost back because of course a happy ending has to happen. Overall, this story was a bit of a mess. Most of it was pointless. Osiris was okay as a character, but he was underdeveloped, and the antagonist looked threatening but was never a driving force. I never felt like the stakes were really high at all, and I was left disappointed. Did you like the original Destiny and Destiny 2? You'll like the gameplay of this game. Okay, in all seriousness, the gameplay is essentially the same. Lots of shooting. The Black Forest is a great idea and sounds cool in concept, but it ends up being a linear hallway to get from point A to point B. And the quote simulations make sense story-wise, but they just seem like a lazy way to rehash old content and reuse enemy types. Speaking of enemy types, you get essentially none. All you get are reskins of some Vex into different colors, which look cool, but don't do anything different. They don't have different attack patterns or strategies to fight. There is one exception to this, as I very much enjoyed the second to last fight against one of the Vex mines who would randomly spawn terrain that you'd have to hide behind. Because he constantly shot a laser that killed you, you had to hide behind that terrain so you didn't die. That boss made me use a strategy other than shooting, and made me actually think. This was a high point for me. Although after that boss fight, the fight with Pyopsy seemed a bit anticlimactic. For him, all you have to do is kill ads until Osiris exposes his weak spot, and while this may have been a pretty standard fight, it is made pretty cinematic by the fact that Osiris shows up and introduces some basic mechanics that have you carrying a ball in a straight line. I think this fight had potential. This would have made a great raid fight. As you had someone carrying the orb to an objective, some other player would be keeping the ads off the orb bearer or something like that. I haven't played the raid yet, so if they do implement something like that, that'd be very cool. I just feel like the fight with Panopsis was pretty cool, but it had so much missed potential. As for what is there in the form of gameplay, it is still Destiny, and I do still enjoy it, but I also think some of the introduced mechanics could have been elaborated on more. For example, at one point, it instructs you to jump a large gap with a sparrow, which was pretty cool, but it was only done once and never touched on again. The general tone of the gameplay is not bad, but so much lost potential. As for the art direction and music, as usual for Destiny, the art direction is stunning and the musical score is amazing. The set pieces are great. Generally, it's one of the most aesthetically pleasing games on the market, and in that aspect, it is one of the best. At the price of $26.99, is the expansion worth it? No, I don't think it is. At that price, there's nowhere near enough content here, and the content here has very little substance to it. While I haven't played any of the strikes due to the fact that after queuing for the playlist, I didn't get any new strikes after a total of 11 strikes, so I gave up. There needs to be a better system for queuing for new strikes, like a dedicated queue for Osiris strikes or something like that. As for the raid, I still haven't played it, but even if it is the best thing ever, I don't think this expansion is worth your money. And if you like Destiny, well, let's be honest, you already bought it.